Everybody, it's Marty the JavaScript Party. My buddy Rhett. She's waiting for her, eagerly awaiting her nut. There you go, girl. And here we go. So, I think I've mentioned this before, but like there was this movie that I watched in the 1980s that was like, it's hard to watch today because a lot of the movies in the 1980s start real slow and then like real boring and then they sort of go kind of have like some exciting stuff happen and then they just get really boring again. But we didn't have much to watch back then, so that was good enough for us. But so it doesn't probably almost unwatchable today. But I never thought about that. I watched it in the '80s. It seemed weird, and then they had like five of them. They're called Hellraisers, and then I never thought about it again until like maybe 2006, 2007. And the reason I think about it, I started thinking about it then all the time, and I think about it all the time, is because like people would stare at their phone or stare at these little boxes in Hellraisers, and then they would just sort of get trapped in the box. And the box was like a puzzle and stuff like that. And man, people when the phones really started, the mobile devices really started to come out, looked just like that. It was just like it was just bizarre. It was like it was one of those movies that sort of like they had a vision of the future, but they didn't understand the technology, so they sort of came up with their own kind of technology. Oh man, this unit testing's really feeling like that to me. It's just like the more I dig in, the more like I want to know more, and then the more I dig in, the more and the more deeper I dig, the harder the problems get. But then like I uh, I think I'm becoming a better developer because of it. But it is like completely sabotaged the project. I mean, the project the project is moving at an absolute snail's pace, and compared to any other project that I'm working on, and that's exactly I've seen that exact same phenomenon happen in actual like real paid jobs where like they got so fixated on the unit tests that nothing more could happen. And and I the the one thing that makes it almost impossible to walk away from is the, I just can't deny that that I've become a better developer. I think the code is just like it's kind of like, oh, I don't know, like I'm just gonna I'm not saying that this is how I rate it, although this I try to always do my best, but like it's like the difference between getting like a 90 on a grade and you get an A, or you get a 99 on a grade and you get an A plus. So like when I was in college, like the goal was to try to get as close to 90, or if I've given up the ability to get an A, as close to an 80 as possible. Um, because anything above a 90 was a waste of of energy. Um, and then even if I had like a 95 in the class, and let's say I had another class that had an 89 on, I would be like, okay, I can get as low as like say let's say there's five tests. Oh, I can get as low as a 70 on this one. So I'd be aiming for a 70 on the one, so well here, we're like I'm like going all in. I'm trying to learn and try to get as much understanding as I can. So, and what I've seen is that I do think that my work at my job and on my other projects is better now. But this project is almost like a sacrificial lamb. Um, like, okay, well, we're just never going to get anywhere with this project. We're just going to keep moving forward, but um, we're not going to get anywhere with it because you know I'm constantly going to just be like under a microscope, looking at a microscope, fix polishing all the little pieces that no one would ever see or use. So, anyways, so we did better. We're definitely way better on statements now. We're closing in on that 90. Functions were well over 90, and then branches were at 66.66. And I do think that that is pretty good, like information. So the reason it's good information is because it just really compounds how much more. difficult it is to unit test a branch than a function or a statement. Branches are extraordinarily difficult to unit test. Um, so you should be very careful and thoughtful when you make branches. And I do. I literally think about that now at my job and everywhere I go. I'm like, okay, yeah, I don't really want to make a branch unless I have to. I'm going to do everything I can to avoid a branch because I realize, like functions are very, very easy to understand. If everything you write is in functions, like making sense of it is many times much, much easier. And then like statements are definitely easier. But once you start throwing branches in there, the ability to understand the code you just wrote gets much more difficult. All right, so let's just dig in. And I remember we wrote a test yesterday morning uh, to get coverage on this. I think we already had coverage on it, but I wanted to make sure I remembered it. And this sort of, I think this line, this test right here is sort of the part where I lost that determination to only get 100%, not to dig into the actual code. And the reason I didn't want to dig into the actual code and start actually testing is because I know for a fact that is the path to projects just never ever getting done. And this is the moment that it happened because I just wanted to make sure that I do in fact get the next available right. So what do I expect? I would expect that I have these 3 mock visualizations. So the next available right is going to be this plus the width. Now, do I have that written down? I wonder anywhere. Oh, for the West right. Okay, so I think I should add a little bit more to this comment. And again, now here I am like literally reviewing my comments putting a deep understanding into my comments because of this. So this is line 299. And this this thing I'm doing right now doesn't even begin to make the actual application any better. It just makes it easier for me to understand. Okay, the furthermost right is the left position plus width plus width of the rightmost viz. All right, so I think that it might save me some time in the future. It might not. I don't know. I'm curious. I wonder if the statements and lines. Yeah, so those comments are not statements. I don't know. I don't know what the difference between statements and lines is. But did I not? Oh, I was probably still building. Okay, there's our new comment. All right, so that is that. So it should be easy to test. Basically, the next available right is going to be 150. So it's, yeah. So let's see. Expect. Available right to equal, and I swear I've heard like it's tempting, right? Another like kind of thing that I've seen in so many places is it's tempting to like then make it add these things together and all that and then make like functions that do things and stuff like that to just start really like I've gone into unit tests in places where it took me hours to even figure out what the unit test was trying to test because the unit test became overly complicated. And if that is your problem, like if you've acknowledged that you have a problem with like your code getting overcomplicated, which would put you in the boat with about like literally 95% of other developers, then don't pollute the unit tests with your same, desire to, or your same habit of making things overcomplicated. Unit tests, there's nothing special about unit tests that prevent them from getting overcomplicated too. So now I want this warning to go away, and I still want to have 100%. So I do feel pretty confident that that is going to work. I'm not absolutely 100% confident, but I am now. And like I do have a solid grip of what this code does. This, I'm not, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me right now. Get farthest left. I don't even know what it's for. Um, so I guess I would like to go and see. This is the scary, scary one. But where does get farthest left go? Where does it get called? Guess we'll just have to do a search. There we go. So yeah, it's in all of this sort of. This is going to be pretty time consuming, I think, to unit test this. Okay, so get the farthest left, assuming the farthest left is 0. So basically, for some reason, we wanted to know what the leftmost one is. And then, oh, okay. So what we're trying to do is determine if the row is available. And the reason I know that is because the name of this method is row available. So that's pretty good. And then this is trying to figure out the item that's at the most leftmost part. I don't know. I wonder if, so the end is the farthest right, left candidate, and do we even use the start? It doesn't look like we ever even use the start. All right, so let's go to the code and see. And oh my gosh, it's amazing how much dead code exists inside of most code. Well, I guess I should just look at the number here. The line number is 239. Is row available? Oh yeah, see, it's even telling us that we never even use start. So I'm just gonna comment that out for now. I was gonna delete it, but before and okay, I like that comment. Fix gaps. So I don't think we ever use get farthest left. So we may not even have to unit test that one, because we might be just getting rid of it. Yeah, it looks like there's only 2 instances and that one. So I'm just going to comment that out now. And this should help our numbers. So we got 96.29, 88.23, and 97.79. Oh, but I'm not. That's overall. So we've got. Let me slide this over. Close this. So we've got 86.33, 6666, and 91.89. So functions should definitely go up because I think we're going to go down to 36 functions. Statements, it looks like we're going to dump about 10 lines of statements. So yeah, that's going to get us. We should be over 90 on everything. I don't think we helped with branches. We might actually lose ground on branches. I don't know. And here we go. Man, I'll tell you. So my wife has a business. It's a local business. She makes, she does like a craft sort of thing, and she does a very good business. It's really starting to do well. Um, and it's like we're actually very, very tempted. I mean, getting close to like where it could almost support our family. And well, it probably could support our family. We just would have to change our lifestyle. Um, but which is just such a great thing. But I was like, oh, I should start promoting her business on my account, because I mean, she might make a sale or something. But nobody from the United States watches mine, and it would be very, very expensive to mail the work she does to outside the country. So it was like, okay, well, that didn't work. But I do appreciate people watching. It definitely does not. And the fact that there's just been this huge uptick, like for me, huge percent, not no, not by mass, but by percentage in the number of people watching my stuff, and it's all exclusively. The United States doesn't even show up on my list anymore as a place where people watch, and the number of mobile devices has skyrocketed. Um, but I guess there's probably a lot of work starting to programming work starting to go around the world, and I think that's a really good thing. I think programming is, you know, just a really interesting thing, and I'm glad that people who have a programming mindset in other countries have opportunities too. So, like, I don't see, like, I really don't see. Well, I don't know. It's hard. It might hurt us. It may not. It's hard to figure that out. Because like we'll lose a lot of corporate jobs, but then there's a lot of mom and pop work here that just like nobody does, and like there's just a lot of opportunities with just small businesses in the United States and regular people and stuff like that. So I don't know. Yay! So we're over 90 on that. We're almost to. We're only. We only have one function that isn't tested, and Braxit. We did move up in branches. We're almost to 70%. Right, so that's good. And let's just make sure stuff breaks. I cannot see how that would have broke anything, but I always like to check stuff. And that's good. And let's move on up. Moving on up. Okay. This is kind of a bummer. All right, so I feel like what we want to do, I think, okay, so what I'm doing here is okay, so I've got a get row siblings. Okay, so I guess what this is doing is this is the whole function is like, so in this, these four are siblings and these four are siblings because they're on the same row. So if I add one more, this one is not a sibling with anyone. This is an only child in this context. This one has three siblings. This one has three siblings. This one has three siblings. So it now if I was in the context of columns, these would be the siblings. But right now I'm just basically calling these siblings, and I don't know if siblings what that means. Like if that is like that's our generic non-gender word in American English. I don't know if I know we sort of have our own brand of English for a brother or a sister, someone who has the same parents. So in this context, this row is a parent, and these are its four children, and these four children are siblings with each other, without a gender. And so I love to watch these shows on TikTok where they show people from other countries coming to the United States and then just being like excited and blown away by certain things that they just didn't know about the United States. Just because I think it's really good to not take things for granted. And there's just a lot of wonderful things about living here, and it's good. It's not all good, but it's good to not take the good things for granted. Um, and one thing, when I worked with a lot of uh, folks from India, that was really wild. I mean, it was just so wild. I don't want to say weird because weird has like sort of negative connotations, but it just was really like I didn't know that we were take something was like, because I worked with a lot of people in India that were in India, and a lot of people in the United States that were Indian, and 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 we had like kind of a thing where like in the mornings we would write our code in the daytime in the United States, and then the folks in India would test the code at night, and then um, in the morning we would get the results of the tests and stuff, and then we'd have a meeting and we'd decide what we're going to do next, and then and it was a pretty good system. It worked really really well, um, but the one of the things is I remember I was talking to one of my friends. We called him AJ, um, and I remember saying, "Oh, is this a guy or a girl I'm talking to?" And like he's just like, "What's your deal, dude?" And I was just like, and you can't. He couldn't actually determine just from the chat and from the name the gender of somebody. Which here in the U.S. you can almost always, not 100%, but most of the time. Like my name is Marty, and Marty is a lot of girls go by the name Marty too. We usually spell it differently, but we don't, um, but we pronounce it the same way. So like my name is Marty. Most girls are Marti. And usually, and many times it's like short. It's weird. It's short for Martha, um, which is Marth. I don't know. I don't know how that became Marty, but and actually my daughter's husband's mom is her name is Marty as well. So I get like where people will call me up and they'll be like, "Oh, can I talk to Marty?" And I'll be like, "Speaking," and they'll be like, "No, I mean the girl," or they'll be like, may I talk to Mrs. Trujillo?" And it's just like that's when I know they don't know me, is because So we do have a little bit of not being able to tell gender based on name, but 99 times out of 100 you can tell someone's gender based on their name in the United States, and it is so funny that you can't. The other really big thing was that so English is the primary language in the United States only because that's what the vast majority of people speak. Now, my understanding is that, and I was told this, and India, if there's a country in the world that's more sort of diverse and different in like culturally diverse throughout the whole country than the United States, it's India, because like you can say something about, oh, in India they do this, and it's just like you'll get 100 Indians that say, we don't do that where I'm from. So it's just like it's a very very culturally diverse place. But in India, um, their primary language, apparently, I've been told, is English. But that doesn't mean the majority of people speak English. That's English because that's the one common language that you can get a translator from anywhere you're gone. At least that's what I've been told. So anywhere you ever go, you can find somebody that can speak English. So that's sort of like the guaranteed language that somebody around there will be able to speak. And they work hard to make sure that that is the case. So we kind of here in the United States, English, like in 50 years, English may not be the primary language. It might be Spanish or it might be Chinese or something. Like it's just the primary language is what most people speak. Now, a lot of people are really get very upset about that, and they're trying to fight to keep English to be the primary language. But and it seems to be the most flexible of the languages that we have. But anyways, yeah, and I will say that, like, so this, I'm having recreation right now. Like, I do this on my own time for fun. I've literally never made 1 red cent off of this. And not only that, but usually when a lot of times if I've gone through the interview process and people have found videos, normally I've said something that makes them not want to hire me. So I don't even think it's really helped me from a hiring and firing perspective. It's more for my fun and for learning, and sharing what I know and things like that. Um, not the project is sort of a side effect, and it's become even more of one. But anyways, so we got something going on here that is kind of hard. So this, okay, so this was a mistake on my part. Like, the code isn't bad, but I probably should have made a separate function for it to call, um, not call it inline like this. And I think 6 months ago, 90 every single time it was inline. Now, like, I wrote some code like this at work last week. Did not even for 1 second was it inline. Um, so I think that's a very good, like, that was one of those things that I learned from unit testing, is like, don't make these inline. These really need to be their own function. Um, it's just a lot easier. Like, life's just a lot easier when you can focus on something at what it does. And so this is the row siblings filter. And the row siblings filter apparently takes a mapped viz. And it's of type ST visualization. And I'm assuming it looks like it returns a Boolean. Is it capital B? I don't know. Oh, it's upset because I didn't. And then we want to basically return this. We can just copy this as is. Okay, so it needs to know what the current row is too. Oh, yeah, that's right. So we have like a scoping issue, right? Because it's in here, it can see what the current row is, but the um, um, but over here it doesn't have a visual what the row is. Um, so and we did something very similar to this where we actually kind of created, I guess, a factory. Let's read it. Let's kind of go through that process again with ChatGPT and try to learn it a little bit better this time. Because this is something that I'll grind through and get done, but then I don't really understand it. Like when I'm all done and sort of just moved on with my life, I don't understand it. Okay, I have this function in a Angular service. And I would like to put the filter into to create a separate function for the filter, but I am struggling with the scope, specifically the current row. And I think even this writing it out and being really careful and thoughtful about how you write it, it actually helps with understanding. And I generally will watch my videos like if I'm trying to build stuff or anything like that at work, I'll just as background noise. I'll listen to my videos and all that, and that will probably happen on Monday, and that will further concrete what we're about to learn for me. So like this is actually a very good learning experience for me right now. Now I know that what we're gonna want to do a bind. We're gonna want to bind this and pass in. I think we're gonna. Okay, here's what I think. I think we're gonna want to create a factory function that creates a function for this filter, a custom function for this filter, and then we're gonna pass that filter in. So I think we're gonna add another line up here, and we did this earlier this week. Earlier this week, we're gonna add another line that says create the filter, and then we'll do a bind, and we'll pass in the current row, and then it will return the filtering function, and then we'll pass that filtering function on that, and that filter, and I believe that is a pattern of some kind. I think it might be the factory pattern or something like that. So enter. Oop, wrong one. And I just can't even believe this technology. It is just so great. So you can use a higher order function and I did that this week too. That's another thing that at work this week I did a bind and created a higher order function. This way the current row and current viz remains in the scope via closure. That if you have to do a JavaScript or an Angular or any kind of front end, you will likely get a question about closure. And honestly, whoever's asking you the question may very well have the wrong understanding of closure. That happens all the time. You go into an interview and the person thinks they know something and they're completely wrong about it. Or it's like more subtle, like there's 5 or 6 subtle variations and they know one of the variations and all that. So you have to get really good at like not embarrassing the interviewer. So we want to create the filter function. So is row sibling. I don't know why it wants to make these things private. I just don't understand that. I get wanting to make stuff private because you're like, oh, I don't want some rogue application. Now I'm practicing words right now. I don't want some rogue application to modify my state, because things can get very confusing. So protecting the state I get, but like if something checks the current row a number against the visualization outside of this, like who cares? It doesn't hurt anything. It might actually be useful in the template or something. All right, so let's look at this. So we're basically, this is the name of the function. We're taking in a row. we're we're taking in the current viz, and then we're returning. That's what we're saying here. We're returning a function that accepts a mapped viz and returns a boolean. That's all we're saying here, is that this function returns a function that accepts a map viz and returns a true or false. Now, they put this all on one line, and I guess that makes sense, but basically, I feel like I would rather put that into, oh, yeah. Oh, man, I remember going through this earlier this week. Yeah, I don't like the return. I don't like it saying return and then return. And that's what we'd need to do on that. So now we're returning this function. And yeah, I mean, it's not the easiest to understand thing in the world, but it is good. And then I remember when we updated our method last time, it had us do this stuff, and I was like, I think I'd rather, for the purposes of unit testing, I think I'd rather just create a variable const row sibling filter equals, I think I can do this. This dot is row sibling and current row. So it does not like that. So it says, oh wait, oh. Okay, so here it, ugh. Okay, so some of those different, because before we were able to actually, oh wait, we get a, oh, we're only, yeah, so unfortunately, I guess we have to do it like this. So over here, they added this in here. So we replace this with this. Is that right? Okay. Well, first of all, let's. Okay, I'm gone nuts. Let's get back to our original state. Okay. So we have our new function, is row sibling. I definitely have to pass it in like this, but we have to return the result from this function. So I guess here we could do what I kind of wanted to do. Const row sibling filter equals dot, this dot is row sibling, and then we're going to pass it the current the mapped viz. Well, current row, right? Goes first, current row, and then mapped viz. So that's our function, and then we want to return the result from that function. I think. And then mapped viz. It's kind of weird. Why would we have to pass the mapped viz? This does not feel right. Current row, current viz. Okay, did I just get really confused? I think I want, no, get row siblings. Get row siblings. So they're saying get row siblings says, okay, I'm just going to copy all of this because I've totally gone sideways in my brain. All right, so here we go. So it's happy with this, and I think the one thing that would not work, that would break if this wasn't working, is we wouldn't get the next line. It wouldn't go to the next line, I don't think. But this current filter, that is so much cleaner than what I was just trying to do. What the F was I thinking? See, I think my brain, there must have been some subtle difference between what we did earlier this week and this did, and then that had me sort of in a mindset that now I have to undo. All right, so this this is a filter function. It takes a row, which we get from up here, and it takes a visualization, which the filter program does it. And then current row, current viz. That is so wild. So through, because we created it, we're creating it in line. This is a function that is created, right? So can I do this? No, I can't. So I can't create that function ahead of time. Yeah, I think I might have even, now that I think about it, I think I might remember even saying, "Oh, this one's going to be more complex than the previous one." So, anyways, so that's good. We added a function that is probably not being tested at all. So we need to write a test for is row sibling and get row siblings. I don't think either of those are going to be particularly hard to write a test for now. Basically, we just, hey, if the top, we're going to send in a mapped viz and a number, and if the row is the same number as the top, and and it's not the same one as the current render ID. This current viz. Oh, okay. Oh, I think. Oh, okay. So it wasn't just one thing. It was two things that were. Do we still have the old one? Yeah. So we were okay. So I had it in my head that all that mattered, the only thing I needed to pass in was the current row, but I also need to pass in the current viz. Oh, okay. So I guess I could have done what I wanted to do. I just got really confused because I thought the current viz was the visualization that was being iterated over. So I could do what I wanted to do and not there, but up here, and I could say const row sibling filter is equal to this dot is row siblings, and then pass it a current row and the current viz. And then I could just give it And I kind of like this better. This is kind of like, I think, again, I never know if I'm saying, since very, very, very few Americans watch this reference may not make sense, but I feel like this might be like training wheels for me, and maybe in the future I'll just go with this. But I like that. Okay, I have a filter. Um, okay, and that is what I wanted to do. I have a filter, and I want to do that, and I want to put a comment up there. Okay, so um, is there a name for this? Is there a for this pattern? Specifically, predicate factory or a filter factory pattern. Okay, yeah. So that makes sense to me. This is an informal term, but it's common in functional programming to create a function that returns predicates. And I don't even know what the word predicate means. Functions that return true or false based on external content. Okay. Related closures, predicate function returns a boolean used often with function factory, predicate factory. Yeah, so this is a factory function. And sometimes people will say, do you understand the factory pattern? And I think this is kind of what they're talking about. Usually if someone's asking you that, they're probably from like a Java background or something. And I think factory patterns sort of means they have a very, very strict definition for factory pattern. So like a lot of times, like if I have an interview, man, I just at this, yeah. But I haven't had an interview in so long. But if I have an interview and I see that they have a Java background, I will generally brush up on what their definition of a factory pattern is, because they almost always ask about it. I'm using a predicate factory via higher order functions and current row visualization for filter. And it might pay to come up with, like, if you're doing an interview and you're doing it with a Java backend developer, but you're being brought in to be like a front end developer, that might be a very good way to inject into the conversation that a lot of things are the same names but slightly different, or slightly different names, and say, well, so in JavaScript, I think you might be talking about, like, in JavaScript, we have this concept where we create these predicate factory patterns, and basically it's usually for like higher order functions, like in like arrays or something like that, where you want to pass it in you want to create a function that creates a function that will be used as a filter, because it has a predicate. So what is a predicate? It returns ball. Oh, okay. It takes a value and returns a true or false. It answers yes or no to an input. Okay. So, that would be a good way to, like, sort of answer the question so that you pass the interview, but then you sort of also be like you also kind of have like a vibe of, like, we're a little different. What you do is important, but what I do is important as well. And on the front end, we are kind of in a situation where we come at things a little differently. So and then there's a lot of overlap in names that can make things kind of confusing. It's probably the best way. Everyone feels smart afterwards. There's no reason to think you're wrong, because you did a pretty good job of qualifying why maybe your understanding of a factory pattern might be a little bit different than their understanding of a factory pattern. It's probably a good approach. So anyways, yeah. So these are kind of this. I think adding this is a training wheel for me. And then I think I want to put like create a filter function based on the current row and current viz. And let's say like let's let ChatGPT critique that. So I don't do this often. So I'm trying to way that will make sense to me in the future. This seem correct? Yes, what you wrote is clear, easy to understand. Later, here's why it works well. The comment is concise, communicates the intent you're building a filter function from some state variable. The code separates logic and execution. Optional if you want to be explicit code. You could rename the helper like this. Yeah. Excellent. So anyways, so now I guess we want to see where we're at again, because I haven't done a reload since we made our change. I think we're going to lose ground on functions. We may, I don't know, branches. I don't think it will affect branches. Statements. I think we might have more statements and more coverage, so we might gain some ground on statements. I think we might end up with like 133 statements and 121, 22 covered. I don't know. Let's hit refresh. 134, 1634. Yeah. So we didn't really improve anything, but I think we made it where it'd be a little bit easier to test, especially this thing. This is the, whenever I've seen this yellow thing like that, it's always been like, ooh. So is row sibling, we want to pass it in a number and a visualization, and that's it. Oh, and then we want to execute it. So let's go ahead and do that with a different visualization. It filters a viz based on the current row and the current viz. So that's what it does, right? And then we give it a function. And then anytime I create a function, I always kind of want to add a, like that, a little strong typing, but maybe that's overkill for that one. And so basically, I think we need two vizzes, right? One is going to be our mock, our current viz, and one is going to be, I guess we want, and then I guess mock viz one will be our current viz. So, and I think we could do this if we just wanted to be more current viz, more explicit, right? Mock viz one. And I don't have a lot of experience with unit testing, so maybe that's not a good idea. I feel like for me, if I'm coming back and reading this unit test in the future, it'll be a little easier to understand. So now we want our const filter function. And I guess predicate filter. Just try to remember, maybe have a better chance of remembering that word. Predicate equals service dot is row siblings, and we I guess we okay, so we want our current row, so we're just going to call it 50. No, oh, so we need a top. We don't need a and I think the top is 0. St top is 0. We don't need a width. St top. Oh, and our problem is that it never tests when they're not equal. So it never goes through that concept. So the current row is 0. Let me name that const. Okay. I think that kind of tells me I should have made that. Next, right. Is equal to 150. And then comma. Plus. This is such a dangerous comment here, because the problem is there's such a good chance that that things are going to change, and that comment will never get changed. All right, so current row, comma, current viz. Okay. So now that shouldn't have helped anything. And then I don't think. So if we hit reload, yeah, we're still, well, it's not done yet. But I believe what we can do now is say predicate filter, predicate function, and we can pass it mock viz2. And I think this will get that covered, because basically now the SG render, oh, they don't even have renderer IDs. So it wasn't that the tops weren't, and we actually want those to be the same. We want the ST renderer ID. Equal to 1. And it's just like, it's nice, right? Like you could just sit down and just go, oh, so this one only cares about this because this is the only data that they have. But like, let's be real, who has time for that in real life? I think that is the issue, that that we do not have that kind of time usually. Okay, so now we got our warning that we have a visual a spec that doesn't have an expectation in it, and hopefully that's gone. Okay, that's good, and I think that helps our branches. Yeah, so our branches are up to 73%. Didn't help our lines, I don't think, but helped our branches a lot. So now what do we expect? So we expect this, because they're on the same line, we expect this to be true, right? expect is sibling to be true. All right. Did it all pass? Yes, everything passed. So, the next layer, right? Like, do I need to check the false outcome too? Do I? I mean, I have 100% coverage, or I have it fully covered. I'm working towards my 100% coverage. I am actually testing things to make sure that they work as I expect them. Like, do I need to add, like, oh, okay, now we're going to test every expected outcome? I mean, it would be easy. It would be easy to go down that step. And hell, by this time next week or 2 weeks from now, I might actually be doing that. I might have been sucked into that next layer of I want 100%. I want I want functions tested to do what I want them to do. Right now, it's only like some functions that are kind of confusing. I want them, but I might be like, oh, I want all functions to be tested to do what I want them to do, and then I want all possible outcomes tested. Like where does it end? I don't even know what comes after that, but there's probably something else that you can do after that too. Um, it's I don't know what to think about it. It is taking a tremendous amount of time. Um, is it worth it? I mean, for me on a personal basis, definitely. Like my enjoyment of coding as at my job and on my other projects is definitely much better because of this going through digging through. I didn't get to these questions. The only reason I got to these questions was because of the unit tests, so like for personal growth, absolutely it's invaluable. you know is it good for the project? No, I don't think this project has benefited from uh from this unit testing, but I do think that I as a developer have really benefited from the unit testing. So I don't know, that's where I'm at right now. Obviously, my opinions are constantly changing, so I don't know for sure where I'm going to land on this. I'm definitely wildly changing opinions on a week to week basis. Um, but anyways, so the next one we're going to need to work on is this is row um, available, and this is probably going to be the hardest one, maybe since we started working on this stuff, um, because it's got three branches, and like it seems like each one of these branches it might pay um, to make it its own function. So like literally a function that just takes two things: a right candidate and uh, a this with a viewport with, you know, and I probably could just say service dot viewport with equals 10. Right candidate is a number, and return uh, oh, and then assign it to whatever comes from that function. Available equals blah 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 blah, and then uh, yeah, then make another function that returns. Let's see, we do an assignment there, we do an assignment there, we do an assignment here and here, and then we we check to see if the length is greater than 0. So basically, this is assigning things to like local variables. Um, and apparently, what do we use end for? We use end for this. Get available right. Oh yeah, we spent a lot of time on that one. So basically, this from line 251 to line 259 we are creating. Okay, so we're not okay. So here we're not doing anything that is outside of the scope of this bracket. So none of that really matters. What all that matters is this um, available equals false. So this function here. So the function that returns, we need to create a function that returns false, but it doesn't just accept a right candidate. It doesn't even accept a right candidate. Um, so it would accept a width, a viewport width, and the row siblings, and a current viz. So we want to create a function. I believe what we want to do is we want to create a function that gets the siblings, the current viz, and the width, and returns a true or false this available, whatever this available would be. So um, that is probably what I will work on tomorrow, and then um, and then once that's out of here, and once this new function that's going to do all this is down here, we can just call it directly from the unit test, and we will have taken care of. Well, we've added a function, but we will have gotten rid of a branch, um, and then we'll figure out what to do next with what's on 251, which is probably going to be another function. So basically, I guess what we're doing, and this is kind of a new, like I'm treading on new ground here, but what we're doing is we're basically replacing branches with functions, um, and seeing how that works for us. And we really won't know like what if it's beneficial or not until like maybe a month from now or 2 months from now, when we're working in this code again and we're like, oh, like, and we're going, and hopefully I'm still taking it kind of slow and easy, and I'm like, oh, okay, so this is easier. Oh, this makes way more sense. Oh, yeah, this is way more maintainable. But I could, like, if I was just heads down, just grinding on code, just getting stuff done, the project would definitely would be a lot faster and would do a lot more stuff. But, anyways, it's a long video, hour and 7 minutes. Happy coding, everybody. I'm going to work on my voice API next. So that will be fun. No unit tests, no end-to-end testing. That project is actually starting to wind out and almost be done, I think. And that actually, according to the analytics, is my most popular project, or set of what do you call it? Channel something list. Um, but anyways, happy coding, everybody. Bye.